My name is Roberto Valerio. I'm 46 years old. I'm the founder of Risk42. We write software for B2C risk assessment, mainly in the payment space and in the consumer lending space. The core team and myself, we already work together in another startup, a very successful startup within the fraud detection space. But we founded this company end of 2018. And customers are usually payment service providers, tier one, big ones, retail banks, especially the ones that offer consumer lending products, consumer credit products, and price comparison sites for consumer credit products. And yeah, so far, Money 2020, very successful, lots of high quality talks, very interesting crowd, high level attendees. For us, it has been very successful to be here. Well, I'm not the youngest founder anymore. I'm 46. This is the fifth startup I'm working for. It's the third startup that I founded. I had very different experiences. I had a bootstrap startup. I had one startup which was basically part of a corporate. And this is a venture-backed startup. So I think I bring in some experience. The first, I think you have to be really into what you're doing, and you have to be convinced about what you're doing, and you have to love it. If you don't like what you're doing, and if you're doing it for completely different reasons, you're not going to be successful, because it's an emotional ride. There are a lot of things that you cannot plan. A lot of decisions you have to do, you do them with a maximum of uncertainty. So you have to be someone who's willing and able to decide, even if it doesn't know the answer. Sometimes there are even two options, and both are bad, and you still have to decide. So I think it's really important to have a can-do mindset, a mindset that you're able and willing to decide. And you have to learn to cope with errors, with mistakes, with adverse situations. The worst thing that can happen to you is to wait too long, not to decide. It's bad as well if you only say yes. You have to focus. You have to narrow down what you're doing. I think one of the biggest mistakes I did when I founded the first startups at a younger age was that I tried to do whatever it takes to get the first customer, to get the first funding round. And I think that's a big mistake, because you're so focused on the success and you're so afraid of the failure that you're trying to look at every option just to make sure that you don't miss one. Oh, this could be the biggest client. I have to talk to him even if I don't have a product for him. Then I change the product. Oh, this is investor. The investor wants me to change the business plan. Don't do that. I think it's really important that you stick to what you initially want to do. It doesn't mean that you should still take advice from a lot of people. It's not about hiding anymore. You should be very open about what you do, and you should take input from other people serious. Most of the input is good input. Lots of critics you get from people, peer group, but potential customers is valid. So listen a lot. Be able to change your opinion, but it's really important that you decide. Whatever you do, take a path. Even if you change it, go the path. Don't wait too long. That's probably it. The last startup I built was a startup owned by a corporate. So at the end, even if we built it as a startup, we were all basically employees of the corporate. I never gave the impression to the people that worked for me that they ultimately work for a corporate. So we had a culture, a startup culture, but it was within a corporate. Funny enough, we attract a lot of talented people, a lot of people with an entrepreneurial mindset, even without being able to offer any shares, share options. It was just about salary. What we did, we paid well, and that's a misconception. People think that you should hire people and they have to be really motivated so you can pay them less. Because you're a startup, they should understand, money's tight and don't pay them well. And if they don't accept it, if they're not willing to take a pay cut, they're not the right people for us. And in my opinion, it's completely wrong. At the last startup, we paid market value and even above market value to the people, because the people we hired, a lot of them were seniors. A lot of them were not within their 20s. They were within their 30s. They have families. They have kids. You want these people to have, not to worry about their private life. They want to have the same private life. They want to live in the same flat. They want to have money for the kids. They want to go for holidays. If you're looking for short-term employees with a high fluctuation, people that really burn for the company, they're going to burn out at some point. You want to keep people. You want to make sure that you have a low fluctuation. So keep your employees happy. Pay them reasonably well so they don't take the next better offer. And that's what we did with the last company. We didn't have a single resignation with the first 50 employees at that company. Because we paid them well, we treated them well, we gave them holidays. It's a complete misconception that at startup life you have to stay at the office every night. It's a romantic story, and honestly, good people, if you want them to work for you, not only for 6 months, but for a year, for 2, for 3 years, and build up a company, treat them well, and don't put too much pressure on them. And the second one is, as a leader, and I saw an interview with Jürgen Klopp yesterday. He just won the Champions League, everybody knew. And it's really interesting. He said, like, yes, I'm leading this football team, but these football players, these soccer players are all very good. And I have people around me who are better than I am. Give them the opportunity to grow. You don't have to be the best. And you have to communicate that to your people. Leading doesn't mean that you have to do everything best in the company. Leading means you're moderating, you get good people onboarded, you give them the setup they need to succeed, and if they're good people, they will take your work. And what I realized as an early stage founder, you have to do everything yourself. You have to be in every discussion about the product. You have to be in every sales cycle. You have to have every talk with investors. You're selling yourself to the team. You're selling the team to the investor. You're selling the company to the customers. At the beginning, it's correct. If you reach 10, 15, 20 people, your role changes completely. At the beginning, you had to learn everything so you could see how the company works and even learn from people that were better than you. They teach you how it works. But then you have to take yourself out. And as a founder, in my opinion, at a later stage, you have two roles. The one is getting the best talent into the company. And for that, you have to be an empathic person and you have to be an authentic person. And people have to trust and believe you. And the second one is to get money in. Because that's the entrepreneur, what he has to do. And it doesn't matter if you get the money from investors or from customers. The best is a mix. It's always bad if you are bootstrap. It's quite tough. It can work. But then you hustle for the customers. It's bad if you have only venture capital for the first 3 years because you never make any revenues. That's tough as well. So the best is having a mixture. Having investors, they want to invest into you. Having customers, they want to pay for your products. And the second one is getting your talent in. And it's making sure the talent is happy. And that works fairly well. When I founded my new company, the whole team for the new companies are all employees that work for me in the old company. We didn't recruit a single one from the outside. And that's how you build, you have to build relationships to your customer, to your team, and you have to make sure that they trust you, they believe in you. Culture is important, but not culture by management books, or don't read too many startup books, don't read too many management advice. CFTE, well, okay, of course, you should talk to these guys. The most I learned is really from customers and from team members and from people from the industry. Talk to peers, talk to other founders, even the most successful founders on the startup tabloids. They failed, they did mistakes. If you can talk to them and if you're open about where you're failing, they will be very open about their failures as well. And it's interesting to know some of the most successful people I know from the startup world, they had massive failures and they did big mistakes. Learn from them, but don't read it in a book. I mean, it's always about, at the end it's about people. Building startup is an emotional ride. It's not about numbers. It's not about, there's no plan for it. It's about relationship to people, to your team, to your first customers, to your investor. Invest heavily into talking to people. make sure your private life is in order. A lot of startup founders I met had issues in managing their private life, especially in the time they were building up the company, because you feel the pressure, and that's something what, if you're out of corporate life or out of university, it's not the work that puts a lot of pressure on you. Because at McKinsey you can work 14 hours as well, but if you're sick, someone else will take over your place, and you don't worry about it. You're on holiday, you switch off your phone. Well, you don't do that, but you can really detach. Even the smallest startup, even if you are only 3 people, you worry about it day and night. And it's not about the time, it's the constant pressure that you feel, is everything working out right? And there are always things that are uncertain. And it's a constant pressure. And if you have to make sure that you get something in your life where you can balance it out. And for a lot of founders I know are not within their 20s and not out of university. A lot of them are already 30, 40. They have family, they have kids. It's helpful if you have an intact family. It's helpful to take a couple of days off with the family, with the kids, because it will regenerate your batteries. Don't think investors don't want to hear that. I mean, okay, first 6 months you probably shouldn't go to South America for a prolonged trip. But if you tell your investor, I'm out for 3 days with the family, they're going to understand that. So don't over exercise, don't overdo the startup hustling. Make sure that you have retreats for yourself, and it can be sport, it can be family, it can be some hobby, it can be even just chatting with people from the industry. But make sure that you have a fun part which is not connected to the company, which is not connected to your team, which is completely detached from your work life. And I'm not talking about work-life balance because you're not going to have it. But make sure that you know, where am I regenerating my batteries, because you're not going to be successful in 6 months. A startup usually, even now, takes probably something between 2 to 8 years to build. And 2 years is already a long time. If you think that you probably need 4 to 5 years to build something up, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You start sprinting, you're going to be out of air soon. So think about marathon, think about a marathon with a lot of hurdles, but you have to make sure you have your strength well balanced.